What if I told you that emotional intelligence and a nurturing instinct were once considered a liability? By the end of this segment, you will understand how the last 10 days of Aquarius differs from the earlier degrees, and how this last slice of Aquarius represents emotional intelligence operating within the realm of fixed air. This energy is the deliberate fusion of feeling and logic. I will move through the three main images that govern this decan: the Seven of Swords, the Moon, and the Star. And yes, I am about to defend the Moon's reputation. In the Rider-Waite-Smith image, a figure slips away from a camp carrying 5 swords while 2 remain behind. This is not random behavior. It is calculated. It is selective withdrawal. It is tactical repositioning. Does this look like chaos to you? Or does it look like someone who read the room and decided not to attend the argument? This is the Moon moving through Aquarius. The Moon brings instinctive perception. Aquarius brings rational distance. Uranian influence adds a bit of rebellion and systems disruption. In other words, emotional intelligence plus strategy plus innovation. Hardly weakness. A better question to ask about this decan is, what happens when your inner empath learns systems theory? The first 2 decans of Aquarius emphasize system, reform, and intellectual structure. The third decan introduces the Moon. The Moon governs instinct, emotional memory, adaptive sensitivity. When the Moon enters Aquarius, feeling is filtered through air. Reflection precedes reaction. Emotion is examined before it is expressed. Is that instability or is that discernment? It is worth considering how the cultural assumptions of the late 19th century may have influenced how certain planetary combinations were interpreted. That cultural bias shaped how certain decans, including Moon in Aquarius, were evaluated. The Golden Dawn title, Lord of Unstable Effort, highlights inconsistency due to the female attributes of the Moon and the number 7, which is equated with Venus. 2 feminine qualities appearing in a fixed air masculine sign. I don't read feminine qualities as being inherently weak and unstable. I read this card as a strategic redistribution of effort, or, in short form, strategy. 7 in the suit of swords shows layered, almost intuitive maneuvering. Add the Moon, and emotional intelligence enters the objective and logical quality of Aquarian fixed air. If this placement operates in shadow expression, or when the Aquarian personality is under stress, then yes, the Moon becomes changeable and reactive. Aquarius becomes exiled and cold, and Uranian energy becomes erratic. That shadow might show up as overthinking every text and ghosting your own feelings in the name of boundaries. But that is distortion, not destiny. Because the Moon also rules rest, recovery, sleep, and emotional restoration, this strategic withdrawal can serve well-being. Selective isolation at times is not avoidance. It is renewal. The Star is actively influencing this decan as the guiding Aquarian current. It represents higher vision, collective awareness, and the ability to step back far enough to see the pattern without collapsing emotionally. Under its influence, instinct becomes directed rather than reactive. If you want a deeper symbolic breakdown of the Star and the Fool, watch Aquarius Season Decoded in the YouTube Aquarium playlist. We do long form, we cite sources, we overanalyze responsibly. Bring snacks and a natal chart. To continue with our analysis, the Fool is equated with Uranus, the ruling sign of Aquarius. It is equally active here as the catalytic force. The Fool represents breakthrough, originality, and the courage to depart from inherited emotional scripts. In this decan, Uranian influence does not destabilize the Moon, it liberates it. Maternal protective instinct and rational intellect operate together. Emotion belongs to the Moon, the feeling tone, while instinct here functions as smart guided judgment. Sensitivity enhances planning. The 7 of Swords shows selective engagement, knowing what to carry forward and what to leave behind. If emotional intelligence, acceptance, and nurturing were once labeled weak inside masculine structures, perhaps the real error was never the Moon. The Golden Dawn produced a sophisticated symbolic architecture of how tarot cards apply to the 78 symbols of tarot tradition. Yet it was also a product of its time. The Golden Dawn's attribution framework was developed within an all-male leadership structure, operating inside Victorian cultural norms. In that cultural environment, feminine principles such as the moon and Venus were sometimes described in terms of fluctuation, sensitivity, or moral ambiguity. It is worth considering how that intellectual climate may have shaped the language used to describe certain decans. In the Golden Dawn's book T, this decan is titled Lord of Unstable Effort, language that implies fluctuation rather than failure. Later in the Thoth system, Crowley renamed the same moon in Aquarius decan Futility, a noticeably harsher judgment. Both interpretations emerged within a Victorian intellectual climate that often regarded emotional variability with caution. Rather than dismissing those titles, we can ask whether they describe weakness, or whether they reflect older assumptions about feminine instincts operating in an air sign. Sometimes brilliance carries bias, and sometimes reinterpretation restores balance. Austin Coppock, in his book 36 Faces, describes the third decan of Aquarius as a place of exile and threshold where one feels the strain of remaining inside structures that no longer fit. There is frustration and growing disenchantment, yet departure is not impulsive. It shows deliberation. It shows someone who has weighed the cost, salvaged what matters, and prepares to step into the unknown. As Coppock notes, this phase entails long vacillation and careful consideration. The departure is strategic, not reckless. It is the moon in Aquarius processing, discerning, and choosing its moment. And that is the planetary nuance of Aquarius's final 10 degrees. If you enjoy unapologetically nerdy, symbol-heavy, decan-by-decan deep dives where we treat tarot like a research project instead of a vibe, come join me on YouTube at Intelligent Perspectives.